Welcome back to the Networks channel. As you know, we are a community of college students and young adults in our 20s who gather now virtually to deepen our relationship with Jesus and the church. This channel is a place where you get inspiration from scripture, a tip to sheltering in place, and your icebreaker for your small group tonight. I hope you guys had a great Easter despite the isolated circumstances. Since we didn't go to any family events, Aubrey and I instead watched movies from The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series. They were originally books by J.R.R. Tolkien, but they are also these incredible movies filled with theology and amazing landscapes and battle scenes and inspirational characters. After we watched the movies, it got me thinking about this character in the Bible that could have come straight out of a Lord of the Rings movie, Samson. And Samson can offer some inspiration in our current times. Let me read you these verses from Judges chapter 15. And for context, in this passage, Samson and the Philistines are fighting in this scene. The reason behind the fighting seems a little extra and things get way out of hand way too quickly, but I'll let you read that for yourselves. And to clarify in advance, I'm definitely not okay with the animal cruelty in the story. But scripture is not often as clean as we expect, nor is all of it a textbook for what we should do. So this is Judges chapter 15. So Samson went out and caught 300 foxes. He tied their tails together in pairs, and he fastened a torch to each pair of tails. He then lit the torches and let the foxes run through the grain fields of the Philistines. He burned all their grain to the ground, including the sheaves and the uncut grain. He also destroyed their vineyards and olive groves. After this happened, the Philistines went out and they got Samson's wife and her father and they burned them to death. Eventually, Samson was captured and he was being brought back to the Philistines. And then this happened. Verse 14. As Samson arrived at this place, the Philistines came shouting in triumph. But the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson, and he snapped the ropes on his arms as if they were burnt strands of flax, and they fell from his wrists. Then he found the jawbone of a recently killed donkey. He picked it up and killed 1,000 Philistines with it. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, I've piled them in heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I've killed 1,000 men." When he finished his boasting, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was named Jawbone Hill. Now, can you imagine, especially if you've seen The Lord of the Rings, this could come right out of it. And obviously, the scripture, there's a lot to study and unpack and try to figure out the context of it all. But one of the themes that I've gathered in reading the scripture a few times over, despite the insanity of it, is that God shows up in seemingly hopeless and devastating circumstances, and often he empowers us to get the victory. So now obviously we are not in that type of war, and we don't need to use foxes and donkeys to kill armies. But in this season and others like it that we will face in the future, it can seem hopeless and devastating. But nothing is so hopeless or devastating that God can't come to empower and rescue us to fight through it, literally or figuratively. God is bigger than anything we will face, and often God empowers us to have victory over it. So that's your inspirational scripture. Now for your tip to shelter in place. Many ministries and companies are now planning for what the new normal will be like after the health of our community and country and world is stabilized. Spiritually, we should be doing the same thing. This shift in routine has increased the amount of time I've been spending in scripture, and God has really met me in those devotional times. I want to continue that in the new normal that's on the back end of sheltering in place. What are the spiritual practices that you want to keep or add into your new normal after all this? My tip is to decide that now before we get there. Now for your icebreaker for your small group. When everybody is in your small group video chat, sketch your neighbor. Sketch someone in one of the boxes above or next to you. Your leaders will make sure that everyone has someone sketching them. And then spend 4 or so minutes sketching each other while you share about how your Easter was. And then show your group your amazing sketches. And if you post them, go ahead and tag PCC the network. So be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys all next week.